Welcome to the Mike Hewitt Show. My name is Mike Hewitt, and in the studio with me today live is Jim Riley. Jim, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. And I am alive. This is wonderful.
But you're getting kind of old, so we're right on the bubble now.
We're looking at the tunnel, and it ain't any lights down there, so it's a little nerve-wracking.
And it gets narrower the further you go.
Ooh, baby.
It's a tough ride. And also with us is Matt Wiedenhoff. Matt, welcome back.
Morning.
Now, what I wanted to kick around today, well, let me get some housekeeping out of the way first. Tonight, this replays on iHeart at midnight. Is that right, Oscar?
Yeah.
Along with my music?
Yeah.
And then it'll also be on YouTube somewhere in the next day or so, right?
Yep.
This week, because of scheduling, we will not be on TV, but next week we'll be back on, and that's going to be 49-1 and also on Comcast 397. I did it finally. I did it right on the money with no prompting, no signs in the background, no waving fingers. It was great. What I want to talk about, though today, gentlemen, aside from just what's in the news, is what?
And Jim's shirt.
And Jim's shirt. What are those, Jim?
I have my airplane shirt that I picked up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
And that shirt is the real reason we're not on TV today.
That's exactly right. And I wore it especially because I thought that I might have an opportunity to be on intergalactic television.
Yeah,
But I have little World War I biplanes and triplanes, Baron von Richthofen's Fokker triplane.
Oscar and I felt a moral obligation to protect the public from seeing that shirt.
Yeah, man, I was all kind of super geeked. I'm flashing my baby blues here.
Yeah, you got the camera on them. Nice job.
When you're in Oshkosh and everyone is all airplane geek and they're selling shirts, you got to buy one or more.
And if you're driving down the road, be glad that you can't see it. And if you're going to race home to go look on YouTube, shield yourself first. Just brace yourself before.
Oh man, the von Richthofen and Captain Brown, the big battle. I don't have Snoopy, thank gosh. So anyway, hey, let's get back to your show.
You have plenty enough room for Snoopy on that shirt. Hey, the other thing I wanted to talk about today, other than your shirt, was the state Republican convention that was held yesterday in Novi. And just a little bit of a tidbit, it's kind of neat because 160 years ago in July, the first convention for the Republican Party was held. So it's exactly 160 years, and now we had our state convention yesterday. I like that. Now listen, if one of the reasons I wanted Matt to join us today is this was your first convention, and I've been doing them off and on for a number of years, and so you get to the point where after enough time, I don't want to say it's passé because it's actually pretty exciting, but I'm sure my vantage of it was different than yours. So what did you think of your first convention, Matt?
That was pretty cool. I've been watching national conventions since I was a kid, and I had a lot of questions going in. Is this like that? Well, what do we do? I have no idea, and it was pretty interesting. You get to meet people from all over the state. You know your local side, but then you're meeting people you've met through Facebook or Twitter or across the state. The amount of people there was shocking.
You mean not very many or a whole bunch?
It's kind of both. I mean, there's a lot of people there, but at the same time, when we look at it, there's like what I figure out 0.033% of the state population's actually there. That's not a very good ratio, and that's kind of part of our problem, I think. But the convention itself was pretty cool, and you got people like Congressman Amash and former Congressman Allen West and Congressman Heisinger and all the way down to the trustees we were looking at electing. It was pretty interesting.
Yes, I looked at it kind of opposite. I think that it's a process to become a delegate. First off, it's a process to become a delegate at the county convention. And from that, folks, you first are elected in your own precinct on the ballot in August to be able to become a county convention delegate. Then those county convention delegates meet at a county convention, and this is true across America. And you at that point you're elected from the county delegates to become a state delegate, or because we had such actually opposite of what you were saying to a degree. We had so many volunteers that were involved that there were a lot of counties that ended up filling up their legal roster, the number of delegates they're allowed to have, and had a bunch of alternate delegates who were there hoping that if not all of the regular delegates show up, then they could be elevated, is the word. up to becoming a person that gets to vote on such things. I wanted to talk a little bit today about what the purpose of this convention is, following a Michigan primary at least, is we were able to have the state delegates vote on such things as the lieutenant governor race. And I don't know that a lot of folks are aware, but from the convention floor, the state convention, at least in Michigan, and there are a number of other states that do it this way, but we have rather than having a handful of positions, a lieutenant governor, for instance, is nominated at convention rather than being nominated at a primary that folks vote in, okay? So we had a big race going on between, I can't say his name, what was his name, Wes
Nakajiri, I believe it was.
Nakajiri, is that how you say it?
I believe so.
And he was a candidate for lieutenant governor. He was challenging the current sitting lieutenant governor, Brian Calley. And I thought Wes did a noble job, by the way. He stayed positive. He stayed on his message, and inevitably he lost. But even in loss, I thought he was very, very respectful. He took the stage. He motioned for a unanimous vote to have asking his supporters, once he realized that, okay, I don't have the votes, so let's give Brian Calley a unanimous send off to head towards the election in November.
Yeah, I think it's going back to that whole unity thing they keep talking about, where, Wes got defeated, but he still was noble, like you said, and humble enough to ask for everybody to back Lieutenant Governor Calley. And that's a big push forward, considering he's considered the Tea Party candidate. And we're all trying now to come together and make sure that we beat the Dems in November. And by doing that, and his actions with his humble secession speech was great, and kind of went down the ladder with all the rest of the candidates when they were also asked to give the unanimous ballot.
Yeah, now there were a few candidates, by the way, folks, that really weren't challenged. Our current sitting Secretary of State, Ruth Johnson, who's been a guest on this show 2 or 3 different times in the past, was not. She had no challenger, so she automatically received a very vigorous and positive unanimous vote to be nominated to go on to the November ballot and defend her position as the incumbent. And I got to tell you, I think that, first off, I think she's got nearly the unanimous support of all of the Republican base. And I got to tell you, I think there's a fair percentage of Democrats that think she's doing a good job, because the reality of it is she's doing a good job. And it's real hard to get partisan over license plates and all that, but I think her organization skills have proven to be pretty successful.
Have you been in the Secretary of State lately?
Yeah, I have.
Well, were you pleased? Because I got to tell you, I went in there to renew my license in May, and I actually saw all of the ladies at the counter smiling. And I've never had that before. Normally they're look unhappy, they're disgruntled, they're not real helpful. And I saw a whole new change. I was like, wow, you guys are really friendly, and I really appreciate this, because it's frustrating sitting back here for an hour waiting.
They weren't.
When I
listen,
get up here, you were friendly.
Wait, I got to stop you. They weren't smiling. They just finished laughing. They saw you out in the parking lot, exchanged several jokes about you, and by the time you got in, they were able to squelch it down to just a smile.
Well, it's because whatever you guys don't know is I actually had the same shirt as Jim, and I was wearing it that day. That's probably why they were laughing. But hey, I'll make people laugh, and that makes better service.
It seemed to work for you, huh?
Yep.
Very, very nice. Next one on the list was the Attorney General, who is Bill Schuette. He's Michigan's Attorney General. I got to think, and Jim, tell me if I'm wrong, but that's another position that, for me at least, and obviously I'm biased here, but it feels like a near nonpartisan position. Only because if the goal of it is truly to execute the laws that are enacted by our state legislature and by the constitutions, I think he does a pretty good job. What do you think?
Well, I'm a conservative, and I think he does a pretty good job. But as opposed to the Secretary of State, the Attorney General's job is immensely partisan and political, as we've seen on the national level with the current Attorney General, who seems to make politics out of everything. And the real power of the Attorney General is what cases he or she chooses to go after. And I know that the Democrats are not happy with some of the choices that Attorney General Schuette has chosen. As you asked me, am I happy with him? I think he's done a fantastic job. But a lot of folks on the left are not happy. They would like to see some of the cases that he's gone after left alone. And from everything I've seen, it appears that he should have a fairly easy run in terms of winning the next winning re-election. But any number of things can happen between now and then.
And this isn't going to surprise anybody, but I don't think I agree with you. And here's where I separate. I have a tough time putting Bill Schuette in even remotely near the same caliber or political level as the federal Attorney General. I don't see them guys.
Well, Eric Holder, no, I would agree. That was perhaps a poor analogy.
Yeah.
But
when I look at Holder, I don't see an ounce of professionalism, and I don't say that out of partisanness. I don't say it out of race or anything else that he'd like to inject into it. When I watch his antics, rather than looking to calm and to be simply an arbiter of the Constitution and of the laws that our legally elected representation have passed, he's in there stirring the pot. He's not there to try to make America better. I just don't see the two guys in the same same universe.
As I said, I perhaps used the wrong analogy, but attorneys general make their own decisions as to which cases that they will pursue. And certainly Attorney General Schuette has been nothing like the current national Attorney General. But the choices of what he's gone after and the choices of what he has chosen not to go after are highly political, and they are in any state. And that's why, as far as I'm concerned, the Attorney General's office is a far more important office to those of us who are conservative than the Secretary of State's office, albeit they're both important either way. And voter ID, as a matter of fact, is a huge one.
That's partisan.
On both.
You're right. That is partisan.
And deciding to go after voter ID violators, people who would disenfranchise actual legitimate American citizen voters, is something that most conservatives believe is important. Schuette has gone after that, and we can be sure that a Democrat, if the state of Michigan elected a Democrat Attorney General, that would be far, far down on his list of things to do.
I got to tell you, that in this part, we agree very much on that, Jim, but I have a tough time understanding, and I mean this in the most literal sense. I truly, genuinely cannot understand a rationale that would say, let's not protect our voter eligibility and the continuity and honesty of our election process. I can't fathom who could sit down and articulate an argument against protecting our rights.
I go quite often to liberal sites just to see what's being talked about, and we don't typically hear it on national media, but it is a very, very loud concept among many people in the left, and I suspect many in the current White House and power structure today in the Democrat Party, that George Bush stole essentially two elections. He stole the election against Al Gore, and then, of course, he did not win.
I thought his name was Igor.
Well, you may laugh, but they're still angry as can be. And then when George Bush beat John Kerry using the Electoral College, but not the popular vote, many on the left are being told by their leaders, and sadly many believe this, that those elections were stolen, and by any means necessary, Democrats can and should steal elections if necessary to make right the wrong. I think it's a ridiculous concept, but you must be aware it's a concept that is quite popular among a significant portion of not only Democrats, but if you look at national media, who will join in and say there is no election fraud, and that's just flat out been proven. Election fraud is here, and it's been proven in too many ways.
We hear a lot about the angst and how divided America is nowadays, and you and I touched on it last week, Jim, that you take an election like JFK, which was way more razor thin in terms of popular votes than was the Igor versus Bush race, and it was the same exact debate, only it was Nixon who was asked, please challenge this result. And Nixon, of all people, said no. The American, our way of life in a constitutional state is more important than whether I personally win or lose this race. So I mean that's the other side of it. It's a great example.
There are different methods that are attractive to different people. I think you would find that, and we see this from advertisers too, there's a significant difference between those people who identify themselves as Republicans and those who identify themselves as Democrats. We buy different things. We listen to different media. We are, in fact, in many, many ways, different types of people. And I think you brought up a tremendously wonderful comparison between what a Republican did in an election that we now know was stolen,
right,
and what Democrats are still talking about today.
Folks, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to News Talk 1090, WKBZ.
Renegade River in Spring Lake wants to buy your used handguns and hunting guns. Renegade River, your hunting, camping, and survival store. Stop in and check out their new and used firearms, sporting goods, Army and Navy supplies, and survival gear. Downtown Spring Lake, next to the police station.
This is the sale that Michigan waits for. It's Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC's model year-end clearance event. Wall-to-wall on both sides of Henry Street. And every 2014 vehicle must be sold to make room for all the incoming 2015s. The time to buy at rock-bottom year-end prices is right now. Discounts and rebates over $10,000. 0% for 72 months. And Benton is paying top dollar for your trade guaranteed. GM has authorized Benton to clear out all remaining 2014s, regardless of cost or loss. Drive a new Chevy Cruze, $99 a month. Chevy Malibu's $129, Equinox $179, and Chevy Silverado 4x4s just $259 a month, and get 0% for 72 months. $2,500 minimum for your trade, and nobody will pay you more for it than Benton guaranteed. The Benton Used Car Super Center is overstocked with huge discounts and over 25 acres of vehicles to choose from. The time to buy is now. Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC's model year-end clearance event, Henry Street, Muskegon. Nobody in Michigan sells for less.
This is Dan Tullis, and I just called
Joel Clark,
one of Select Quote Insurance Services' term life agents.
Hi, Mr. Tullis.
Joel, how does Select Quote save you money on term life insurance?
Well, buying term life insurance is all about choosing the right company. Let's say you take antidepressants or you smoke. All insurance companies are going to price that differently. We'll impartially shop all the companies we represent to find you the best price.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. I just got a man, 40 years old, on cholesterol medication, a $500,000 policy with a highly rated insurance company. His price, $22 a month.
Call 1-800-935-8767 and see how affordable term life insurance can be. That's 1-800-935-8767. 1-800-935-8767. Or go to selectquote.com. We shop, you save. Get full details on the example policy at selectquote.com/commercials. Your price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Hey, West Michigan. Come see me, Dave Ramsey, with my daughter Rachel Cruz on September 11th for the Legacy Journey Live, the event based on our follow-up class to Financial Peace University. At this event, we'll take you beyond the budget to what happens next as you build wealth and create a legacy. We'll go deeper into investing, giving, and teaching your kids about money. This is your opportunity to determine your family's future. Don't miss it. Get your seats today at DaveRamsey.com.
Presented by Fifth Third Bank.
This coming Labor Day, come to the 5th Annual Labor Day 5K Run Walk. Head to downtown Hart to participate in this really wonderful event. Plus, bring kids 14 and under to participate in the Youth 1 Mile Run, which kicks off the race at 8 a.m. If you'd like more information, go to www.goracego.com.
The News Talk 1090 End of Summer Deals Auction opens for bids Monday, August 25th. And right now you can check out all the great deals at bidonwestmichigan.com. Items like restaurant gift cards, specialty food store certificates, home furniture, diamonds, bed and breakfast packages, family fun center passes, and much more. So go to bidonwestmichigan.com, register as a bidder, find the items you like, and be ready to start bidding Monday, August 25th. The News Talk 1090 End of Summer Deals Auction at bidonwestmichigan.com.
Be a survivor, not a statistic. Renegade River in Spring Lake has new and used handguns, hunting guns, sporting goods, and survival gear. Protect your rights and your freedom. Ask about their CPL classes. Renegade River, next to the police station in downtown Spring Lake.
The Talk of Muskegon. News Talk 1090 WKBZ.
Welcome back to the Mike Hewitt Show with my guests today, Jim Riley and Matt Wiedentoft. Gentlemen, when we went to break, we're running down the list of the decisions that were made yesterday. Next on the list, I wanted to kind of peruse, and I don't think a lot of folks realize how candidates for Michigan Supreme Court end up on our November ballot. and I wanted to kind of kick that around for a little bit. Yesterday at the state convention, there were three. In fact, I'm looking for the results right now, or Matt is looking for the results for us. Yesterday, there were three candidates vying for the position of being Republican nominee to face off with whoever the Democrat nominee will be for Michigan Supreme Court in November. And Jim, you've been to state convention before, yes?
Yes, I have many times.
Have you seen this process?
Yes, I have.
Yep, I got to tell you, when I first got involved with convention politics, I had no clue before that. I guess I had never thought about how a Supreme Court justice from on a state level in Michigan ends up being a Supreme Court justice. I found that very fascinating.
Well, correct my memory here. When they do run in the general election in November, do the candidates for state Supreme Court justice run in as partisans? I don't believe that they do.
I think that nobody, but each party is nominating a justice to or a lawyer. I got to tell you, I don't know the answer to that now that you say that.
I think
you're right.
I
think it's unpartisan, but still both of the parties are for lack of better words, vetting candidates.
Yeah, and now that you've got me thinking about this, I realize how little I do know about this, because I do know that on the Democrat side, the one very big name who was not apparently already nominated, and I don't quite understand how the exact mechanism worked here, but the attorney Bernstein, of the Bernstein and Bernstein TV lawyer fame. I don't know his first name, but he's one of a family of the Sam Bernstein is the father, and then there's the three children. And he's the one who's actually a blind attorney who spent almost his entire career doing pro bono work.
Right.
And he was, from what I've read, he was nominated to be on the Supreme Court by the Democrats. But I don't think that they are, in fact, listed as Republican and Democrat on the November ballot.
Let me read you a headline from the Free Press. 15 hours ago, it shows up on the internet. Protesters object to Supreme Court choice at Democrat convention. And evidently there were a lot of unhappy Democrats with evidently the choice from their vetting process as it relates to a fellow named Bill Murphy, who is currently a state appeals court judge. I say that because, first off, there's angst in both parties. Whenever you get thousands of people and say, let's reach 4 or 5 decisions today, there are going to be a handful of people that are not thrilled with whatever the decisions are. And that's true both within the GOP and the Democrat Party. But it may be just a vetting. I'm going to have to dig into that because I don't know the answers.
Let me just give you a little background onto this, Judge, and why it is important, because there so many of the things that happen we know nationally, but certainly on the state level too, are not propositions that we vote for, or they're not bills that are passed by our Michigan State House and State Senate and signed by the governor. They are proclamations by the state Supreme Court. And what has some people unhappy with this particular appeals court Judge Murphy, who's actually the Michigan Court of Appeals Chief Justice, is that, get this, almost 20 years ago, in 1996, he had an endorsement by the Right to Life organization. And it is that endorsement that apparently has been held up as the reason why this guy, at least as far as Democrats are concerned, should not have gotten the nomination. But the Democrats did, in fact, nominate him. But again, this is very important. This is under the radar for most people. Most of us aren't going to say an endorsement or even a comment 20 years ago is something that should disqualify someone who's been sitting on the bench probably ever since. They're not complaining or making issue, at least any significant issue, with his decisions on the bench. They're complaining about an endorsement by a special interest group almost 20 years ago. So it isn't a beanbag anymore. This matters a lot.
I got to tell you, I don't think it ever has been. Being as you know, I love history, and if you start reading elections from the 1820s and from the 1860s especially, but all through American history, it isn't beanbag politics. And to your point,
well, that's the truth.
But listen, a lot of folks invest everything that they have personally in particular races, whether it be for themselves or in support of somebody else. And of course, when those investments in that passionate belief, because you've got to be passionate. All three of us have been political candidates before. To get in there and say, I'm going to take darts from all sides and invest myself personally, you got to really believe. And so it's very difficult frankly, it's very difficult to be a gentleman in failure. Now, in this past primary, we saw some folks in yesterday's convention. We saw some folks lose with honor, and we've also seen in the past people win with not so much dignity, and people that were also looking for unity in their victory. And so it can be all over the board, but I don't think this is new to our times. I think it's always been.
I would agree. But let me say one thing about, to me, a hackneyed phrase that I tire of. The victors are always calling for unity. Now, what that simply means is that the people who they beat now should give up their causes and become supporters of the victors. That's not the way to get those who have been vanquished on your team. You need to reach out. You cannot just simply say, and this goes for Democrat and Republican, you cannot just simply say, we won, now let's show unity and join us. No, you need to reach out to those people who did not vote for you and explain to them and give them reasons to vote for you.
Exactly right.
And I'm not hearing this from the Republicans. I know the Democrats are just as angry.
I got to tell you,
because the victors use that same hackneyed phrase and that same lack of any type of outreach.
I saw yesterday an overt amount of people trying to strike unity in their victory, and people who had lost trying to push on to some better results. But listen, it works both ways. To your point, inside each party. But it works that way nationally. And while you were talking, I was reflecting back to seeing Obama tell McCain and a bunch of other senators, hey, I won. Sit down and shut up. And go, wait a minute. That's not how to lead. And we need some statesmen and some leaders. And so, I mean, it's easy to take a shot at Obama, but I think it's true from him all the way down to dog catcher, that we need some statesmen that are people that are willing to say, okay, we won, not just I won, we won, let's march forward now.
Well, Bill Clinton did that, and I think George W. Bush did that. Clearly, by every definition, Barack Obama did not. But let me just throw something in, because one of the main issues that has galvanized the Tea Party people, the fiscal conservatives, which is essentially what the Tea Party is all about, and that is this habit of elected politicians, both the Democrat and Republican, of spending money that does not exist. In other words, borrowing money that future generations will have to pay back. Now, the Mackinac Center has just come up with just an update. The news is nothing really new, but let's repeat it because it's critically important, and this is what has galvanized those of us who are on the fiscal conservative side. Michigan has the 9th highest individual per taxpayer burden of any state in the country. The citizens, the taxpayers in Michigan, on average, owe almost $20,000 of monies that have already been spent. Now, let's forget about going forward. This is money's already been spent that is not accounted for and will not be, there's no plans to pay it off, as a matter of fact, at this point. We are 9th worst in the country. We have $55 billion in unfunded promises to Michigan state employees for pensions and health benefits, where we've made the promises, but there's absolutely no money there to pay it, and it can only be picked up in who knows what way. Now, this ought to be a Democrat issue, because certainly Democrats represent, in many cases, they are the party of the unions and the public employees. But to suggest that those of us who think this is, it's not just wrong. I believe it's immoral. It is immoral to spend money to make certain groups happy that doesn't exist, that must be borrowed, and everybody in the room knows it must be put on future generations. That is immoral. That's what fiscal conservatives stand for. And if Republicans aren't going to reach out to the fiscal conservatives and say, hey, guys, we think you've got a good point, and here's our plan to try to fix this, then I don't believe there's any outreach, and I have yet to hear a single word from any sitting Republican, at least on the other side in the state of Michigan, who says, hey, we think you've got a really good, important issue here, and we want to address it. As a matter of fact, what I heard coming from the convention was, oh, yes, as soon as the election's over in November, we're going to be talking about that state sales tax increase.
I got to tell you
to spend more money.
Let me tell you where I disagree on you, Jim. Not to debate you again, but I'm going to use myself as an example here.
This is an audio selfie.
It is an audio selfie. Listen now, I'm the guy that called for primary time. I held the meetings throughout the fall and throughout winter at my shop. I was very active in trying to get folks to primary because of the list of things that you just articulated. But I'm also the guy that said, when the primary is over with, I'm going to be on board with the Republican Party and pushing forward because I'm with Reagan on this. I believe that with faults, it is still the best vehicle to advance liberty that we have.
Yes, it is, and I agree with that.
Now, having said that, you take a guy like me who called for primaries, who purposely, actively, and vigorously was engaged in primary politics, okay? The very people that you're talking about, the establishment, embraced me yesterday. They'd known me for more than a decade. Did they like what I did? Absolutely not. But they sought me out and asked me to get involved and asked me to help unite and bring some unity to the Republican Party. So on one hand, I absolutely understand your frustration. On the other hand, that's not what I saw at all yesterday, and it's not what I've been seeing since the day the primary ended.
Well, we will see what the state party has to say to the citizens.
Right.
We will see what the candidates have to say.
When I looked out across the state convention yesterday, I saw plus or minus 3,000 people, and I'm guessing, I don't know the head count, but just doing a general feel, it felt like about 3,000 plus or minus. Of all of that, there's some people in there that are not angels. We know that. There are some people there that are engaged for maybe some misguided intent. With that acknowledged, the vast bulk of these people are just good volunteers. They're not paid. They're doing it with their own time, their own money. I mean, when I rode over, it was nobody gave me a check and said, here's gas money to get to Novi. Nobody paid me to say, here, pay your help when you're running your store when you're not there. Most of the people there have that story to tell. They're just volunteers. And by the way, I think that's true on the Democrat side also. I don't want to take anything from volunteers in America. What frustrates me, and it kind of goes to Matt's point in the first segment when he said it was only, 0.333 of the electorate that actually participate.
0.033.
When you look at that, then for me
it's about the same level as the alcohol content of that sexist prosecutor who went after Governor Perry.
The one was 0.33.
Yeah. Oh boy! No wonder she looks so good.
That's terrible. The point that I'm making, though, is that the answer to these problems, as far as I'm concerned, is for more citizens to get involved. Pick your poison, whether it's Democrat or Republican. Join the battle for whatever your beliefs are. Don't sit around and grumble and say they're all rotten, because it's just not true. These people aren't all rotten. And if you've got a different idea, bring it to the arena of ideas.
I believe and again, I'll take it the other way around. I believe it's up to the leaders to energize the base and energize them with not just a talk, but with clear ideas and some proof that, in fact, they stand behind those ideas. And that's the problem that so many of us have with both of our parties, in that we say we say there's a difference between Republicans and Democrats. One of the biggest differences, the clearest difference, was Obamacare, where not one single Republican on a national level voted for Obamacare. Every single Democrat voted for Obamacare. And yet, when an expansion of essentially Obamacare was offered here in the state of Michigan, it passed in the State House. 8 state senators, Republican senators, joined 100% of the Democrats, and the Republican governor all voted for it. Therein lies, now money isn't there to pay for that, by the way. That just adds more to this burden of debt that at some point, some generations will have to pick up. So here's where people are unhappy, and I know Democrats are unhappy on their own side. They're disappointed in their leaders. But I am sick and tired, as so many of my conservative friends are, at hearing Republicans say there is a difference, and then their words do not precede their actions. The actions say, oh, wait a minute, we're just going to go along and vote just like our Democrat friends.
Here's something for you to stew on, Jim.
I'm going to stew, baby.
During the primary, we had a poll conducted in the 89th district, okay? And a majority of the Republicans didn't support a number of topics that were at hand at the time. Okay, and so in a primary, we can sit back and say, hey, the majority of the Republicans don't agree with this, and that is a truism, and it was true, it remains true, hence the frustration in your voice. But if you step back a little bit from partisan politics and do that exact same poll, asking those exact same questions of the general electorate, you're going to find that whether you and I agree with it or not, a majority of the electorate, skipping party politics, actually agreed with those few Republican senators that crossed over. It's about a 60+% electorate support for those issues that you and I passionately oppose.
Well, there are plenty of folks that believe that it's wonderful to take money from others and give it to their political friends. I don't have a question about that. I think that the Republican Party can say, we don't stand with those people. And if they're not going to say that, what do they stand for?
My cry then is for this, okay? My cry is to get more people. Your assumption is that all the people that are not involved can't be leaders. I reject that. I say get involved and become a leader. And we're going to finish this debate when we come back from a break, folks. We'll be right back. You stay right there, Jim.
This is News Talk 1090, WKBZ.
Renegade River in Spring Lake wants to buy your used handguns and hunting guns. Renegade River, your hunting, camping, and survival store. Stop in and check out their new and used firearms, sporting goods, Army and Navy supplies, and survival gear. Downtown Spring Lake, next to the police station.
Next month, the MGM Grand Las Vegas. 1, 2, 3. 22 artists, 2 nights, 1 stage. The legend returns. Keep listening for your chance to see our iHeartRadio Music Festival live. Take me back to the shack. Where the iHeartRadio app comes to life. Just added to an already loaded lineup, Weezer and 50 Cent.
Let's go! Hey, West Michigan business leaders, this is Dave Ramsey, and it's time to take your leadership to the next level. Don't miss Entree Leadership One Day, coming to Grand Rapids on September 10th. At Entree Leadership One Day, I'll teach you everything you ever wanted to know about building and growing a profitable business. Joining me will be business expert Chris Hogan. Chris will teach you how to motivate and communicate to your team. Grow yourself, your team, and your profits. Get your seats now at DaveRamsey.com.
Presented by Fifth Third Bank.
Our family had a savings account until our air conditioner died.
We had a vacation fund before our refrigerator had a meltdown.
My family has no money, and our water heater just quit.
The truth is, it can only take one home appliance or system repair to bust your budget. But with a home warranty from American Home Shield, you get to keep more of your hard-earned money because they pay your covered repairs for you. For valuable free information, call 1-800-933-5795. Why pour money into repairs when American Home Shield will pay covered repairs for you? The air conditioner, water heater, plumbing, refrigerator, washer, and more. Service requests are subject to a fee for each trade called. Some exclusions and limitations apply. Why would you ever pay for expensive home system and appliance repairs when you can let American Home Shield pay covered repairs for you? If you'd rather save more of your hard-earned money, call for valuable free information, including terms, rates, and coverage. 1-800-933-5795. That's 1-800-933-5795.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. It's the biggest earthquake to hit the San Francisco Bay Area since 1989. A 6.0 tremor centered in the Napa Valley region.
About 68,000 residents without power here in Napa, 15,000 in Sonoma County. We're hearing reports of roads that have buckled. The CHP now out checking on them.
Fox's Claudia Cowan. 3 people reported in critical condition and some fires, including one that destroyed 4 mobile homes at a trailer park. A possible break by intelligence officials in the search for the killer of American journalist James Foley in Syria.
The man known as Abdi Majid Abdulbari is a leading suspect in the murder. He is a 23-year-old London rapper who has posted hostile videos as recently as March.
Fox's Jennifer Griffin. The suspect's father was linked to Osama bin Laden. So far, no official comment from U.S. intelligence officials. Fox News. We report, you decide.
This report is brought to you by the new Total Traffic app. More clouds than sunshine this afternoon with a high of 82. Tonight, mainly clear, low of 68. Then partial cloudiness early tomorrow with scattered showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon with a high around 85. News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon.
For times when you can't hear live traffic reports on your radio, download our new Total Traffic app. Get the simplest view of traffic conditions all around you. Available for iPhone and Android, the Total Traffic app is the easiest way to see the road ahead.
Be a survivor, not a statistic. Renegade River and Spring Lake has new and used handguns, hunting guns, sporting goods, and survival gear. Protect your rights and your freedom. Ask about their CPL classes. Renegade River, next to the police station at downtown Spring Lake.
Welcome back to the Mike Hewitt Show with Jim Riley and I arguing again. And with us is Matt Wiedenhoff. Didn't you used to play hockey?
Yeah, I do feel like the linesman right now, because as a referee, you have control to stop the game, and as a linesman, you really don't. And either one of you went offside, so I haven't been able to call anything.
Okay, well, there's no checking or nothing. Listen, tell us, though, you were just a candidate. You challenged a state representative in the Republican primary. Jim and I were friendly bantering back and forth over the concept of unity. Tell me and by the way, the reason I wanted you on the show today, keeping in mind, was to get your view of the first convention, but also on this topic, it might help. What's your vantage of the word unity as a person that just lost in a primary?
Well, you hear this a lot, the word unity. We heard it at our county convention from Congressman Huizenga, and then we heard it again this weekend. I did challenge Amanda Price, and I lost. I got stopped. But you know what? I did it because I knew what was right at the time. But in the meantime, Adam Tuntis, the chairman of the GOP, Senator Meekhoff, all of these high-influence people have come to me and said, please don't leave us. We want you involved. We want your ideas here. We want you to make sure you stick around. Don't leave if you lose. And this is before I lost. Then I lost, and I had to go to the county convention 10 days after I lost.
How'd you like that?
I was a little worried about how that would feel. I mean, I'd been to debates with Amanda. I'd been to meetings where she'd been.
You look funny because you still have the shoulder pads and the helmet and everything on. You were expecting a different atmosphere, weren't you?
Yeah, I left my gloves in the car. I didn't even think they'd stay on, so I just left those in the car. But I honestly saw Adam Tuntis right before I even got in the door, and first thing he said was, I'm glad to see you here.
Yeah.
And then I saw Amanda, and she said, glad to see you here. And I saw Senator Meekhoff, Amanda Price.
Amanda Price?
Yeah. So they've all been very welcoming. And yesterday, in fact, I'm sitting there in the back row of the state convention. Again, I still feel like I might be the outsider. I went against the party, and I didn't. But I took a stand and did something that I think you should do if you don't feel that things are right. And I'm sitting there by myself, just kind of hanging out after talking to people, and I look up, and somebody asked if they could sit next to me. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I look up, and it's Senator Meekhoff. I'm like, wow, you want to sit by me? I just went against your candidate. And he's like, yeah, let me sit here. So we ended up talking for over an hour.
Right.
And in the meantime, here comes Representative Price.
Right.
Hey, do you mind if I join you guys?
Right.
And she sat right between us. And I'm like, wow, just 2 weeks ago, I had a different jersey on and we were fighting it out.
So I'm over there. You know how everyone's got this, one of those TV shows where everyone's got their own vantage of a particular activity. I'm standing up there trying to count delegates and make sure that people aren't. And I was a volunteer helping Barb Vanderveen, who's the 2nd Congressional District Chair right now, and her and I are. And by the way, folks, everyone's heard me talk about I primary challenged somebody that was 10 years ago, and it was Barb Vanderveen that I primary challenged. So yesterday, I'm standing there with Barb Vanderveen, and she's got the list of delegates, and we're trying to make sure that everyone that was supposed to be there made it. Account for the folks that didn't, so that we can so that she can elevate the alternate delegates. Well, we look over together, and there you are sitting with Meekhoff and with Amanda Price, and I looked at Barb. I said, "That's what I love about the Republican Party. It really is. This is how we can go forward, and how we can bring some. You know, it's the old thing of Ronald Reagan. This is still the best vehicle for liberty. This is not perfect, but it's the best vehicle we've got for liberty."
And I think it goes both ways. When you got some people on what I said to you yesterday, Mike, when we were talking, you got the establishment and the Tea Party. That's how everybody's looking at everything. No, there's 1% that's this established, and there's 1% that this is far right Tea Party. Everybody else is kind of in the middle, and we can kind of get along. But we got always the 1% talking for the majority, I feel. But I switched jerseys. I took off the contentious I'm going to challenge jersey, and I put on the GOP jersey. Because what I know is that's what I need to do. But it was also how I handled it and how they handled it. It was a clean campaign. I feel they won graciously. They felt I lost graciously, and now we're able to come together. When you look at other people who lost horribly, and then you look at the people who also won horribly, that's where I think the unity, people get worried on how do we make this happen. When you lose the game, you got to just move on to the next one. And the next one is November, and that's where my sports mentality comes in. I've lost in the playoffs, Mike. We've won a championship, lost in the playoffs, and you have to skate down a line and shake 25 men's hands that you just fought with, hit, slashed, everything, and go win the cup now?
You know, titles are funny. In fact, Jim and I talked about this a week ago, talking about the establishment and rhino hunting and words, by the way, that I've said. Okay, and so I'm still quoting Reagan again. You know, he says, in fact, the time has come to see if it is possible to present a program of action based on the political principles that can attract those interested in the so-called social issues and those interested in economic issues. Listen, now we call them establishment and Tea Party. Then they called them social or fiscal conservatives. You know, he also said in that same speech, yes, conservatism can and does mean different things to those who call themselves conservatives. That's why I genuinely, like I said in the first segment, I love primary politics, because I believe that's how we steer the Republican Party. And more importantly, listen, folks, that's the key. Way more importantly than steering the Republican Party, I think that's how we steer America. Okay? And I say that as a direct comment to both political parties. And when I say that, I look around to Jim's position, which I tease with him, but I respect his position. But I look at the electorate and say, please get involved, because chances are, if you've got you're frustrated and you're going, what's going on? You could be one of the people that got involved, learned the process first. That's a key. Learn the process first. Barb Vanderveen told me 10 years ago, you just don't understand. And you know what? She was dead right. Now, when I look back at that, I kind of resent it a little bit, but listen, she's still right. And so I say to people listening, Jim Riley today is right with his frustrations. But if people get involved in the process and learn it, if there are inequities in it, help change it.
Well, let me jump in here just at this point. Number one, what you just experienced, Matt, is exactly the kind of outreach that I'm expecting and happy to see. And that's my point, is that those politicians, and that's clearly what they are, they won these primary elections. Now they need us. They desperately need us to vote in November. And we, as conservatives, we really need the Republican Party to triumph, and at least in good measure, most of the positions. And I just think that we, the citizen, when we let our voices be heard, because we talked about the 1%, maybe Tea Party, 1%, who knows, what have you, but 98% of the people in this country, who, at least the voters, do agree that it is wrong, it's immoral to be spending money consistently that you don't have. Now, not 98% of our politicians believe that. So we need to convey those comments and our thoughts, our normal common sense way that we handle our own finances, with the people who are actually spending our money or our children's money or our grandchildren's money down the road. And so, no, I don't suggest that we back off. I think there's two smart things that can be done. One is, I think that the victors can really make an effort to go out and communicate, number one, against with those they have beaten in the various primaries and their supporters. And number two, the rest of us need to get out and let them know that we are still here and that we still care about these issues very passionately.
Part of the process, by the way, and it goes a little bit to Matt's point, as a challenger, and having been a challenger myself, I say again, part of the process is to be not only good-spirited in trying to seek unity after someone's lost and somebody's won, but it really goes to how these races are run, and I think that's true on both sides of the aisle. So when Matt ran his race, he wasn't spiteful. He wasn't calling the incumbent names. He wasn't being mean-spirited towards the party. He was saying, these are the issues that mean a lot to me, and I'm trying to draw attention to them. I think that's a respectable discourse that's needed in America to try to get these things aired out. So not necessarily that it will change Amanda Price's mind, by the way, but so that more people are invited to the causes that it involves. And I will tell you this about Vanderveen and I 10 years later. I think both of us changed from the primary that I launched. And she's been on this show before, but if she were here right now, I think she would acknowledge that she moved a little and I moved a little. Now we can stand there and watch him knowing that he's in that process, sitting there with Amanda Price and with Arlen Meekoff. By the way, Arlen Meekoff beat me once upon a time also.
What I found funny was yesterday, when I was standing with you for a brief moment when you weren't running around, you introduced me to Barb Vanderveen, which was very nice. I was glad to finally meet her. And she said, thanks for running. I've gotten that from almost everybody. Thanks for running. And I'm going, I challenged you.
Yeah, but that's
and the
what,
things are running, and I thought that was so odd to me. I never expected that because of this whole division we always hear about.
If you're a bomb thrower, if you're in there maliciously just trying to be a horse's butt, you're probably not going to get that. But if you challenge on the issues and you remain respectful and you do it with proper decorum, and you bring new people to the party, by the way, and when I say the party, I mean the American Party. More people are involved as a result of your race than were before before you started. That to me is a victory. And so people that have won before, like Barb Vanderveen and Amanda Price, both of them are good people. We disagreed on a few issues, but that doesn't mean they're rotten people. That just means we disagree on a few issues. Jim Riley and I disagree on a few issues every time he's on the show. And
but all fair, you always agree that I was right and you were wrong.
Not with that shirt, man.
I was
That
with
is
that
an ugly
shirt.
I'm sorry.
We're never agreeing on that one. In fact, I think my 3-year-old's got one that's pretty similar to that. It's got planes on it.
Those are PJs, though.
Young.
You're right, they are.
PJs.
They are. He borrowed his shirt. He has got a night shirt just like it.
The underwear is part of the shirt.
I don't want to know that. Anyway, that's what to me it's supposed to be, and that to me is is more of an inviting thing. And in fact, I've been using an analogy lately. If you got invited, everyone's been invited to someone's house for some social evening. Come on over, we'll play cards or we'll do something. And by the time you actually physically get there, maybe there's been some kind of disagreement between the guests, the two hosts. You know, Mr. and Mrs. have had a disagreement over something, and you get there and it's kind of awkward. You go, maybe we should just do this another time, and you leave. And so I tell you that story because when we have these big infights over really issues that are not essential, procedural issues where there's some wickedness really brought to both parties, new people that we've engaged and got them to come, they sit around and they look and go, what the heck is this all about? It feels awkward. And they say, you know what, we're just going to come back another time. Instead, I'd rather have them see the image of Matt Wiedenhoff sitting with the victor in that race, or me working for hours with Barb Vanderveen yesterday, or another of endless numbers of examples that are just like that across Michigan and across America.
To your point, Mike, on Election Day, I'm at Applebee's with my family eating lunch, and I asked the waitress, do you vote? She goes, yeah. I said, you from around here? Yeah, great. Would you go vote for me? She goes, well, what are you? I said, I'm Republican. She goes, oh, I usually vote Democrat. I said, really?
You say you do that on purpose?
Yeah. I'm like, really? She goes, well, yeah, the social issues. I said, well, how do you feel about paying more in taxes? How do you feel about costs rising because of minimum wage? And I just asked her a bunch of the fiscal conservative things. She goes, oh, I hate those. I said, do you realize you're more libertarian than Democrat? She goes, well, what's that mean? I said, you're actually fiscally conservative, but probably liberal socially. We've gotten so far into social issues.
She's one of the economic conservatives that Ronald Reagan was talking about in his 1977 CPAC speech.
Yep. We've gotten so far into trying to get the social issues beat our platform rather than the fiscal issues, which draw a lot of the youth in that don't understand they're not Democrat. And that goes back to government class in high school. They don't even mention the party system. Well, you have to understand government, but you also have to understand what the definition and bare bones of what the political system and the parties are.
Let me insert a short story for you guys, because you just said something really, I think it's operative, okay? Mm-hmm. After I lost to Barb Vanderveen in 2004, all right, the local government teacher from Grand Haven High School, his name is Mr. Sweats. This guy is far left. He invites me on. Let's talk about party politics and what it means. So that's it, folks. I appreciate you.
You appreciate me.
No, I don't.
You've made my day.
Not your shirt.
I appreciate the shirt. It gave us a lot of laughs today.
It did.
Hey, let's educate ourselves, folks, and vote.
Vote.
November's coming in.
Get involved.
Talk to your neighbor. They probably never have before because they don't know how or where to go. Tell them where to go.
Thank you very much, folks. We'll be back.